Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for today's panel. Please will crave your indulgence for a few extra minutes just to permit the arrival of some of our distinguished guests. So please just bear with us. We'll be commencing the program shortly. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for today's panel. Please will crave your indulgence for a few extra minutes just to permit the arrival of some of our distinguished guests. So please just bear with us. We'll be commencing the program shortly. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for today's panel. Please will crave your indulgence for a few extra minutes just to permit the arrival of some
We need to reconnect with nature and work as one. Let's rewrite the story of food. Our actions are our future. For each and every one of us, food tells a story. It starts with agriculture, and our actions impact its journey each step of the way. We have one planet and are part of one system. We need to reconnect with nature and work as one. Let's rewrite the story of food. Our actions are our future. For each and every one of us, food tells a story. It starts with agriculture, and our actions impact its journey each step of the way. We have one planet and are part of one system. We need to reconnect with nature and work as one. Let's rewrite the story of food. Our actions are our future. For each and every one of us, food tells a story. It starts with agriculture, and our actions impact its journey each step of the way. We have one planet and are part of one system. We need to reconnect with nature and work as one. Let's rewrite the story of food. Our actions are our future. For each and every one of us, food tells a story. It starts with agriculture, and our actions impact its journey each step of the way. We have one planet and are part of one system. We need to reconnect with nature and work as one. Let's rewrite the story of food. Our actions are our future. For each and every one of us, food tells a story. It starts with agriculture, and our actions impact its journey each step of the way. We have one planet and are part of one system. We need to reconnect with nature and work as one. Let's rewrite the story of food. Our actions are our future. For each and every one of us, food tells a story. It starts with agriculture, and our actions impact its journey each step of the way. We have one planet and are part of one system.
Morning.
We need to reconnect with nature and work as one.
All right, good morning. I'm just trying to get my video on here. But let's proceed. Good morning, everyone, and you're welcome to this special high-level panel discussion on the 2021 World Food Day. And the theme of today's discussion is going to be transforming Nigeria's agriculture through more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable food systems. I want to thank you all for joining us this morning, and we will be starting a bit behind schedule. I extend our sincere apologies for that, but be assured that we have an exciting lineup of speakers and a full-packed program for today's discussion. In a few minutes, I'll be inviting the UN Resident Coordinator, Dr. Edward Callon, to deliver the special opening remarks. And Followed by that, we'll have a few other opening remarks by the Ambassador of Norway, as well as the Honorable State Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. We'll then move on to a panel discussion, after which there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers. So right from the outset, I'll be inviting you, if you have any questions, please utilize the chat box, and we'll have a segment in the program where we'll be taking questions and answers. I should also mention to you that this session is being recorded and is also being streamed live on YouTube and Facebook. So with that, I want to yield the floor to the UN Resident Coordinator, Dr. Edward Callon, for his special opening remarks, and these will be delivered by the FAO representative, Mr. Fred Kafiro. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much, moderator. As you have indicated, first and foremost, let me also extend the apologies that are received from the resident coordinator of the United Nations, who is out of the country at this point in time, but also to welcome the Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture and Rural Development, Alhaji Mustafa Baba Shehuri, who is with us this morning. I recognize the senior government officials also that have joined us. I recognize the representative of the ambassador of the Kingdom of Norway, who has joined us here, colleagues from IFAD and World Food Program representatives also joining us, the president of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria, the president of Small Scale Women Farmers Organization in Nigeria, colleagues in the UN and distinguished guests. All of you are very welcome. Now I'll read the message from the UN Resident Coordinator. I am privileged to join you today as part of the celebrations to mark the 2021 World Food Day, which is commemorated on October 16 every year, with the aim of highlighting the importance, but also calling for action on food security and nutrition for sustainable development. This World Food Day is the second to be marked during COVID-19, which has had devastating repercussions for food security worldwide. The COVID-19 pandemic has induced an economic recession that could add up to 100 million or more to the already 690 million people suffering from hunger. This year's theme, Our Actions Are Our Future, better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life, calls for all of us to support the transformation to a more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food systems. Honorable Minister, and ladies and gentlemen, it's worth noting that this year we are celebrating it while almost 40% of humanity cannot afford healthy diets. As hunger, undernourishment, and obesity are on the rise, the economic impacts of COVID-19 have made a bad situation even worse, with an additional 140 million now unable to access the food that they need. At the same time, the way we produce, consume, or dispose of food is taking a heavy toll on our planet, as it is putting historic pressure on our natural resources, climate, and natural environment, and costing us trillions of dollars a year. This is why this year's theme emphasizes that our actions are our future, since the power to change the situation for better lies in our hands. Last month, the world took part in the landmark UN Food Systems Summit, which set the stage to transform food systems everywhere to meet the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. During the summit, countries made bold commitments to make healthy diets more affordable and accessible, and to make food systems more efficient, resilient, and sustainable at every step. The United Nations in Nigeria, working in collaboration with the national convener, supported a series of national dialogues in the preparation of the Food Systems Summit. These dialogues were at federal and state levels across the country. The level of commitment that was demonstrated during these dialogues, which involved all key stakeholders in the country, signified the importance that is placed on the issue of food security. And it's our hope that the resolutions reached will fully be implemented for the good of our food systems, for the good of our health and the environment. Indeed, we can all change how we consume food and make healthier choices for ourselves and for our planet. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to commend the FAO, IFAD, World Food Programme, UNICEF for their continued support to the federal government of Nigeria in ensuring the country's food security and nutrition. As FAO has put it, indeed, the food we choose and the way we produce, prepare, cook, and store makes us an integral and active part of the way in which agri-food systems work. In a healthy and sustainable agri-food system, local market shelves are stocked with nutritious food. Less food is wasted, and the supply chain is more resilient to shocks such as extreme weather, price spikes, or pandemics. And the natural environment is also preserved. In fact, sustainable agri-food systems deliver food security and nutrition for all without compromising the economic, social, and environmental basis for generations to come. So let us all ensure that our actions today lead to better production, to better nutrition, and to a better environment, and certainly a better life for all. I wish you all fruitful deliberations, and I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you. End of remarks.
Thank you very much, sir, for those warm remarks of welcome. And before I pass the floor to the Ambassador of Norway, I'll kindly be requesting the other members of the panel to kindly turn on their videos. I understand there was a little issue earlier with being able to put those on, and so we'll be grateful if that request could be granted. And so you could try to put your videos on now. They should be working. With that, I will be inviting the Ambassador of Norway, the representative of the Ambassador, Mr. Nut Lane, to kindly deliver the welcome address from the Embassy of Norway.
Good morning. I cannot see the screen, but can you see me?
No, we cannot. We cannot see.
You can hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, I will, thank you. I think my bandwidth is low, that's the reason. But my name is Hans Peter Christoffersen. I will present the speech by Ambassador Knut Lane today. We apologize for not being able to be here. So I'll present the ambassador's speech for Norway. Minister, Fao representative, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you today. It is good that so many friends are part of this virtual table. The World Food Day is one of the most important days in both the UN and in our calendars. At the UN Food System Summit in New York last month, the UN Secretary General described the serious situation. It is unacceptable that more than 800 million people are food insecure in the world today. In addition, 270 million people are facing an acute hunger crisis. Actually, the population of the world was 800 million in 1750, at the time where the migration was bigger than ever. The triple crisis of COVID, climate, and conflict has shown us all how vulnerable we are, and how food systems also have important socio-economic impacts on local communities and on society as a whole. How we produce food, what food we produce, and whether we get enough food are questions of vital importance for our survival and well-being. But these are also important issues for political stability, the resilience of local communities, and the opportunities that individual people have. We need to break down the silos between these different thematic areas. And that's why I think the topic of today's discussion is so important, looking at the complexity of our food systems and the impact of climate change. Food and food security has for a long time been a priority for Norway and our many good partners. This is reflected in our humanitarian assistance and through prioritizing fish and agriculture in our development and political work. Last week, we got a new government in Norway. I spent the weekend reading their political platform, and I was happy to see that food security and environment will continue to be a priority going forward. In working together with Nigeria, we seek to make a difference for affected people and societies. Our efforts have mainly gone to 3 northeastern states, where more than 4 million people are food insecure. The numbers of affected in Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe is comparable with the entire population of Norway. And without the support from the Nigerian government and the international donors, millions more may have suffered from food insecurity. While the numbers are alarmingly high, I also want to highlight some of the impressive work being done. One of our main partners is the Food and Agriculture Organizations of the UN, the Fao. With Norwegian funding, they implement a program called Building Resilient Livelihoods in the northeastern states of Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe through climate change adaptation, good practices, and services. The program focuses on establishing farmer schools, distributing resistant seeds and fertilizer, access to clean cooking, and much, much more. The results are no less than impressive, with more than 2 million people having been targeted over the last years. The conditions to work and help out in these areas is extremely difficult, as you know. Today, I therefore also would like to say thanks to all our partners who put themselves at risk doing this important job. Going forward, we look forward to having the resident coordinator in Oslo to discuss food security later this week. We also look forward to continuing our close working relationships with the Nigerian government, both here in Abuja and in the affected states and communities. We should focus even more on the links between food security and environmental issues like land degradation, deforestation, rainfall variability, and water and air pollution. With your background, Mr. Minister, we can take all the good cooperation we did and still do on environment and climate and bring that closer into our cooperation on sustainable food systems. And while we as government representatives continue our dialogue, a global dialogue has also started. Through the Food Systems Summits, more than 100,000 individuals have participated in the national dialogues about the food systems. Many of them are Nigerians, and I understand that Nigeria has held several dialogues and produced a national pathway for food systems transformation. This is important, and we as partners stand ready to engage and assist going forward. In conclusion, I would like once again to thank the UN and the Nigerian government for this important discussion. I wish you all a fruitful seminar and a happy World Food Day seminar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those remarks. And so with that, I'll just ask the members of the panel whether they could try again. And we're just working with the technical team to see if it's all working. Could we see if the videos can now be turned on? Perfect. I think most have been resolved. Thank you very much. So we'll crave your indulgence to kindly keep your videos on for the opening remarks. Thank you. And with that, I will be inviting the Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture and Rural Development, Alhaji Mustafa Baba Shehuri, to kindly deliver his welcome remarks. The floor is yours, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
The United Nations Food and Agriculture representative in Nigeria and ECOWAS, Fred Capero, representative of the ambassador of Norway, the senior special advisor to the President of Sustainable Development Goals, His Excellency Princess Adejoke Oralepo, represented by her assistant Ross Kepas, Senior Special Advisor to the President of Agriculture, Dr. Andrew Kwasari, International Fund for Agricultural Development, IPAD Country Program Manager, Patrick Habamani, World Food Program Director, Ronald Sibanda, the President of All Farmers Association of Nigeria, IPAN, my brother, Architect Kabiru Ibrahim, President of Small Scale Women Farmers Association in Nigeria, Ms. Mary Apan, Country Director of Action 8, Mrs. Ene Obi, represented by Director Action 8 Program, Suwaiba Yakubu. Good morning. It is with great honor and privilege to address you on the 2021 World Food Day. This high-level panel discussion, no doubt, is the climax of activities that were lined up for the celebration. It is important to let you know that in Nigeria, we had a robust celebration with various activities which started on Monday, 11th October 2021. This rounded up with ministerial briefing on the 15th October 2021. During this celebration, there was also a roundtable discussion that brought food safety stakeholders together where relevant issues on food safety, export, and food processing and packaging were extensively discussed by a group of selected discussants. I thank the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations for the support and its contribution to the success of the 2021 World Food Day celebration. The Nigeria agriculture is committed very strongly to meet domestic food requirements, exporting at qualitative levels, and creation of favorable business environment to make agribusiness thrive. This is deliberate strategic approach to generate employment, conserve foreign exchange, and attain the national food security. In spite of this, the food system is still fragile, and this obviously put much pressure on the need to strengthen the foundation of the production effort that is anchored on agriculture value chain to attain food security. There is no doubt that Nigeria's agriculture has done well in the present administration. Perhaps the following assertion will address this view. Nigeria is the world leading producer of yam, produced 18.3 million metric tons per annum. World leader in the production of cassava that has steadily risen to 70 million metric tons. It ranks second as world producer of sorghum, just after the United States of America. It ranks fifth in the producer of palm oil and cocoa. The share of gross domestic product contributed by agriculture sector in Nigeria has consistently been impressive year in, year out. The second quarter 2021 report indicated agriculture sector contributed 25.3% and remains currently the biggest employer of labor. On the account of the fact that agriculture, being an integral part of the national economy, it deserves a better finance, which translates to be more agro-finance to provide credit facilities to support the agriculture value chain activities, small and medium stakeholders. I do appreciate the effort of the donor partners in this area of agriculture finance. I therefore solicit for more support to galvanize the local effort to upscale massive investment in agriculture that has led to increase in the following commodities in 2019 to 2020 planting season. Rise from 12.3 million metric tons of paddy to 14.21 million metric tons. Maize improved from 12.8 million tons in 2018 to 13.28 million metric tons. Cassava rose from 58.5 million metric tons to 70.3 million metric tons. Tomatoes production increased from 2.93 million metric tons to 9.08 metric tons. Sorghum increased from 6.7 million metric tons to 10.7 million metric tons. The livestock and fishery subsectors are also increased in output. Nigeria is a global player in agriculture export. The agricultural export in the year 2019 are as follows. Sesame seed, 77.4 billion naira. Cocoa is 16.73 billion naira. Cashew nut, 45.6 billion naira. Ginger, 3.34 billion naira. Frozen shrimps and prawns, 7.46 billion naira. Processed and semi-processed agro-food, 1.84 billion naira. Cotton, 609.33 billion naira. The potential in this strategic sector is enormous, and there is enthusiasm and political will to return the agriculture sector as the highest contributor to national gross domestic product by the year 2025. as we seek collective effort, both local and international level, to transform Nigerian agriculture into a competitive and inclusive sector. There are various challenges to address. Low agricultural productivity is still worrisome, particularly among the small-scale farmers. Though through the use of fake seeds or grains for planting, the seed sector supply chain is being repositioned to ensure that the farmers have access to quality seeds to improve yield. The National Agricultural Seed Council, under my watch, has been directed to interface with the key seed industry stakeholders to ensure that early generation seeds are structured to ensure uninterrupted supply of certified seeds. There's also ongoing awareness campaign by the Council on the importance of using improved seeds to boost production. The fertilizer use is also an important area that has been reformed by removing administrative bottlenecks that hinders farmers' access to this important input. The challenges of productivity is indirectly linked to low-level agricultural mechanization. It has been a daunting challenge. However, the partnership with government of Brazil to pilot the establishment of 117 mechanization centers across the country is ongoing. When these centers are completed and operational, farmers will be able to buy mechanization services for a fee with relative ease without need to own expensive field or farm operations. Distinguished participants, there is great economic potential in agriculture. The future is bright for Nigeria to win war against poverty, hunger, malnutrition, and unemployment. I am positive that agriculture in Nigeria will continue along the trajectory path of positive growth. Finally, I sincerely thank you all for this opportunity and wish you a happy deliberation. Thank you and God bless Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for that intervention, and the words of hope inspire us that, yes, the future is bright for Nigeria's agricultural systems. I want to thank you, as you know, that we are celebrating today with the theme focusing on the fact that our actions are our future. And so we're raising awareness on the need for supporting the transformation of a more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food system. And I think with the words shared by the Honorable Minister, we see that Nigeria is on path to realizing this. And so with that, I want to thank you again, Your Excellency, for joining us this morning. Before we move to the panel, I will be asking the event manager to kindly share, we'll be watching a very brief video from courtesy of the FAO. And so I'll be yielding the floor for that at this point.
For each and every one of us, food tells a story. It starts with agriculture, and our actions impact its journey each step of the way. We have one planet and are part of one system. We must work together to build a better future. We need to reconnect with nature and work as one. Let's rewrite the story of food for a better, more sustainable world. Our actions are our future.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you so much for that. And I think with that, we'll move to the panel. Before we move to the panel, I will be asking the event manager to kindly share, we'll be watching a very brief video from courtesy of the FAO. And so I'll be yielding the floor for that at this point.
For each and every one of us, food tells a story.
Thank you very much. And so we'll be moving shortly, we'll be moving to the panel discussion. And again, I'm very delighted that we have with us an eminent lineup of speakers who are here to shed light on the work that Nigeria has been doing, efforts and challenges in terms of building a more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable food system. And so we're very grateful to all our speakers who are with us today. In the interest of time, I'll kindly be asking each of the speakers to please limit your remarks to 3 to 5 minutes. And I will be following up with you just to ensure that we give enough time for the questions and answers at the end of the discussion. Now, I should remind everyone who is watching with us and who is participating that there is the chat box function. And so if you have any questions, you could include those in the chat box. And we're endeavored to reach that in the section that has been designated for questions for the discussion, the plenary discussion. So please, let's make use of the chat box to send in our questions. And if you have a specific person you're addressing it to, you can also kindly indicate that in your question. And so with that, I'll be asking the Senior Special Advisor to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on Sustainable Development Goals, Her Excellency Princess Adejoke Orilokwe Adefulire, who is represented here by her assistant, Ms. Rose Kefas, to share with us briefly the place of agriculture and food systems in achieving zero hunger and other SDGs, the work that we've been doing so far in Nigeria. So the floor is yours, Ms. Rose Kefas.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Your Excellency. Standing on existing protocol, I would like to recognize the Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture and Rural Development. And every other person, I'll stand on established protocol. So let me, on behalf of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, appreciate the FAO for organizing this strategic panel session as part of the 2021 World Food Day. I would like to reaffirm Nigeria's commitment towards the successful implementation of the SDGs. We hope this high-level panel will strengthen our commitment to work together as policymakers, development practitioners, and concerned citizens to fast-track the achievement of the SDGs in Nigeria. As we all know, SDG 2 seeks sustainable solutions to end hunger in all its forms by 2030, to achieve food security, improved nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. This entails improving the productivity and incomes of small-scale farmers by promoting equal access to land, technology, and markets, sustainable food production systems, and resilient agricultural practices. Nigeria is the wealthiest, largest economy and the most populous nation in Africa. Yet approximately 40% of the population live below national poverty line, according to NBS 2020. Additionally, COVID-19 pandemic came to challenge our prospects of achieving these national aspirations, including the SDGs. According to the World Bank predicted that the number of poor Nigerians will rise from 82.9 million in 2019 to 95.7 million, that's about 42.9% in 2022. With a rapid population growth by 2050, Nigeria could reach 400 million people, and which means many more Nigerians will be poor and hungry if urgent actions are not taken to ensure food security and promote sustainable agriculture. Globally, in 2020, between 720 and 800 million people are faced with hunger. That is 118 more million people than in 2019 due to COVID-19 and other shocks. What then happens by 2030, where 600 million people may still face hunger due to the lasting effect of the pandemic on global food security? In 2018, over 40.5 million hectares of agricultural land use, Nigeria has combined global value added in agriculture, forestry, and fishery at over $112 billion from just about 30 billion in 2000, or 22.4% from 17.2% respectively, and has created about 21.5 million jobs on agricultural employment. It is no doubt that agricultural productivity growth increases food availability and benefit consumers to the extent that domestic process are lower, yet the country has witnessed an increase of food insecurity level between 2017 and 2019. The NBS reported in Q2 of 2021 that agriculture contributed about 23.87% of the real GDP compared to 21.42% in Q1 of 2021, with crop production as a major driver accounting for 68.60%. So here are the things we've done as an office, as a country. Despite the modest progress made, especially in the decade of action for the SDGs, COVID-19 affected the progress, coupled with the high levels of conflict across the Northeast that drives limited engagement in agricultural activities, with many populations being displaced multiple times in the Northwest and parts of the Middle Belt. Many families that depend on agriculture as a means of livelihood have not been able to go to the farm because of kidnappings, farmer header crisis, and due to the impact of climate change. This resilience as a national priority for utility optimization and chief food security for the SDGs could be through programs and policies such as we need to building a climate resilient economy that effectively aligns with the SDGs, that has great potentials to unlocking the opportunities in different sectors of the economy, while protecting the resources of present and future generations will be key enabler for achieving the SDGs. Global efforts to mitigate and sustain food system must involve key stakeholders, including governments, farmers, investors, multilateral organizations, regional bodies, international financial institutions, private partners, and civil society. Climate smart agriculture, transformative climate adaptive, and food processing that will in turn protect the environment as climate change remains a major threat to our food systems. We need to strengthen urban-rural independence because the food we consume is largely produced in the rural area, but mostly consumed in the urban areas. We need to balance supply and demand, which as the 17 Partnership for the Goals talks on building trust, creating market linkage for the producers, creating of infrastructures, etc. With large increases in agricultural investment will be needed both to raise incomes and increase the supply of food sustainably. Most of the investment will need to come from the organized private sector, but government has an important role to play in establishing the enabling frameworks. The government of Nigeria remains committed to improving the productivity and incomes of small farmers holders by promoting equal access to land, technology, and markets, sustainable food production system, and resilient agricultural practices. At the heart of Nigeria's post-COVID-19 response is the Economic Sustainability Plan, which has a major component on agriculture for food and jobs program. These components seek to leverage sustainable technologies to build a resilient food system for Nigeria. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kefas, for those remarks on the work that we're doing in the context of the SDGs. I'll be moving on to the next speaker. And again, please, I'll just kindly implore our speakers, please keep an eye on the chat. I will be trying to send you messages as the time gets to the end, just to make sure we have enough time left for the interactive session. So I'll be asking the Senior Special Advisor to the President on Agriculture, Dr. Andrew Kwasari. Thank you for joining us, sir. Could you please share briefly some of the key highlights in transforming Nigeria's agriculture? The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Let me recognize the presence of the Honorable Minister for State, Agriculture and Rural Development, and all other distinguished panelists and participants. Thank you for this. I think it is very important. So I will speak specifically to some issues since I received the topic, which is still the same, and my sister just spoke about what is the place of agriculture food systems in the national priority list and in relation to SDGs, which she had touched on. But let me say what we are doing to transform this system as a government. It will be important, coincidentally, to note that under the 9 priorities of this administration, agriculture is priority number 2. And it basically just states in the government policy document that governs what this administration is doing across the 9 key areas, to say that we enlarge agriculture for food security and export. Now, how are we going to do this? Under this plan, we have 5 projects. One is the project on enlarging the mechanization by working with private sector under the Green Imperative project and the agro-industrialization component also funded by AFDB. And at the end of it, we hope to create, as the Honorable Minister says, service centers that are privately operated to lease technology and inputs to smallholder farmers in all the local governments. Project number 2 under that is access to finance. And under this, the government has key outcomes or outputs expected. How do we turn around the Bank of Agriculture to make sure that appropriate financing is linked to smallholder farmers in particular, and then access to market? How do we move away and cut off the post-harvest waste and losses that today can range anything between 15 to 75%, depending on the commodity you are discussing? And what the government plans to do is to concession all of the publicly owned silos and warehouses, and to work with markets to create the Nigerian Commodity Exchange. And this work is on progress. Under productivity management, we think 3 things government has itemized. That is the number 4 project, is to deal with the farmer header issue that my sister mentioned, and to create a resilient modern way to grow livestock, and that is under the National Livestock Transformation Plan, and also to see to it that we are able to manage our water more properly. So this, for us, water management, and the model in the expected delivery from government is use the trimming project today, and to make sure that all the 12 river basin authorities are approaching water management and land use in line with the trimming project to achieve smart irrigation for farmers. And then capacity building. The government indicator here is to basically, how do we get registered at least 80 million smallholder farmers, and to also deal with standards and quality control. Now, talking about food systems, I think it is very important that the SDG, which is SDG number 2 in particular, end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Food systems has 4 components that are critical: primary productivity, secondary productivity. Primary productivity, what are the constraints? Today in Nigeria, we know the constraints of the smallholder farmer. It is that it is unorganized, they are limited in their access to finance in particular, and they view that both in farming practices and yield, over 80% of their constraint is due to lack of appropriate financing. And then knowledge. Farmers need to be organized, they need to have the appropriate knowledge. The second component is, how do we aggregate? How do we really make sure that the post-harvest losses are removed? And we need to strategically make sure that everything that is produced by these smallholder farmers get into the local supply chain of food. And how do we then channel this into manufacturing to make sure that the value added food that comes out is from the local source and is sustainable and cheaper? Now, the issue is, I know that the issue is we have to really make sure that all of this is done. And sustainable agriculture is the key. Why must we promote sustainable agriculture? We have seen it globally that the current industrial monoculture is not leading us to anywhere. So we must think strategically as government, how do we promote diversity in agriculture from primary production in particular, where farmers can rely more on local seeds, creating local seed banks, and having multiple cropping and crops, integrating livestock crops and trees together. That gives farmers the first insurance against shocks, climate shocks, financial shocks, the burden. World Bank statistics have shown, and all over, even the NBS, that 20% of the farmers' output today goes into inputs. And the bad thing about this input is that if you have a new seed variety, requires new kinds of fertilizer, requires more different kind of pesticide, and all is on the back of industrial and monoculture. So I think Nigerian government is in the right direction. We need to promote aggressively sustainable agriculture. We need to work with the farmers, and 90% of our agricultural productivity is from the smallholder farmers. But we know also that these smallholder farmers are unorganized. They need knowledge, but the knowledge they need most is around how do we go back and mimic nature? How do we sustainably deal with the issues of deforestation? How do we reforest? How do we also afforest by incorporating trees into the existing smallholder plots? So I think for me, this is just it, but we need to see this in an ecosystem. It is a whole kind of approach. It's not going to work by different approaches or approaches that are not coordinated. So my last take on this is that the system works. Food system have at least 4 clear areas. Primary productivity, we have to gain effectiveness and efficiency. Aggregation, fair pricing, fair trading through commodity exchanges or whatever, we must do them. And then we have to develop supply chain, local supply chain. We have to domesticate that all of this gets into the manufacturing companies. Then we can talk about food consumption and food trade. That will give them quality food that will be affordable and accessible and also grown sustainably. So I think these are my take on this. And if I have additional time, I will elaborate.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kwasari, and really grateful to hear your perspectives on this. And so we've heard from the presidency, and we're truly grateful to see the work actually being done by the government and the drive actually to achieve these objectives. Now, to give further context to the panel, as well as provide a bit more on the theme, even behind the World Food Day, I'll be inviting the FAO representative in Nigeria, Mr. Fred Kafiro, to kindly take the floor and share a bit more about the World Food Day and even this context of this panel. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much, moderator. Again, let me stand on existing protocols and thank all those that have so far been able to make their contributions on the floor. A lot has been said regarding this year's World Food Day, both for its global reach and what has been done here in Nigeria for the past week. We've had the Minister of State narrating a range of events and activities that have gone on in the country for the last 1 week, largely aimed at sensitizing not only fellow government workers, but also the general public, the farmers, those in businesses, even the media, so that they can take action at their levels and bring an end to hunger and malnutrition in this country. That emphasizes the fact that all of us are part and parcel of a larger system. And unless we do our part, it's very difficult to achieve what we want to achieve. Now, we note the challenges faced by agri-food systems in this country. Many of those fall in the realm of conflicts, particularly conflicts in the north, northeast, northwest. We also note that there are challenges related to pests and diseases, both for plants and animals. We note the impacts of climate change that we seriously are beginning to experience in this country in forms of droughts, in forms of floods when they come, and their frequency. We also note the loss of biodiversity in the country. Deforestation is on the increase, and natural environment generally is affected. But we also know that we are experiencing economic challenges, largely exacerbated by the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, since its founding on 16th October of 1945, FAO has been at the forefront in the global efforts to help eliminate hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition, to make agriculture more productive and sustainable, to reduce rural poverty, to ensure inclusive and efficient agriculture and food systems, and also to protect livelihoods from disasters. The disasters that I mentioned earlier, and particularly in this country, we've been largely working to protect livelihoods of those affected by the conflict in the Northeast. It is not only for FAO, but every one of us, because we are all key actors in the food systems. We need to play our part by changing the way we produce, by adding value to our food products, by making food choices that improve our health, because those choices are very important and they're made at individual level. We need to play our part as well. But also by reducing the waste and loss of food, which would otherwise help reduce food insecurity. A lot has been talked about food loss and food waste in this country. The figures are so high. And yet this is food that would actually be otherwise utilized by others. Now, as for FAO, we call for targeted interventions, particularly in the area of research and development, to make farming more technologically advanced. And I'm glad that the Minister of State, but also the advisor to the president on these issues have clearly outlined what the government in Nigeria is planning to do with regard to bringing in more technology and mechanizing agriculture. We are also calling for innovation in digital agriculture, especially in this age and era where everybody carries a phone in their pockets. How can they use that phone to be able to advance and make transformations in agriculture? We are calling for reskilling and retooling young people. There's a lot of skills that are needed now to be able to produce or to process in a manner that is sustainable. And this reskilling and retooling is very important, but also improving the literacy rates among women. We are calling for providing and generating better data. With data, we can be able to make informed decisions and in a timely manner, but also strengthening the governance systems at all levels. Therefore, just to conclude, I want, as we reflect on the World Food Day, that we take into consideration the actions that we actually undertake today and what those actions mean for the future. Let our actions be responsible so that we can guarantee the future that we want, where there is better production, where there's better nutrition, where there is a better environment and a better life without leaving anyone behind. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kafiro, for that. And without much ado, I'll be moving to the country program manager. Please just give me a minute. Yes, so the country program manager for the International Fund for Agricultural Development, Mr. Patrick Habamenshi, who will share with us briefly some of the support that agencies are providing to the Nigerian government in relation to this theme of the 2021 World Food Day. Mr. Habamenshi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize the Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture and the Special Presidential Advisor on the SDGs, who's represented here by Rose Kefas, and also the representative of the Ambassador of Norway. And dear Fred, in your capacity as the representative for FAO and also representing the UNRC. So I stand on all protocols today. It's my pleasure to be here today, and this theme is very timely. Our actions are our future. It's a reminder that what we do today is what will prepare, is what defining what our future will be. And with IFAD here, we've been working very closely with the government of Nigeria for decades, working on supporting the government's transformation agenda for the agriculture sector. And currently, I will go very quickly, we have about over $500 million in investments in Nigeria, including domestic and international co-financing, working in 25 states. Very soon we'll be in 26 states. And the programs we have are really there to try to address the specific issues of the different parts of the country where we are intervening. In northern Nigeria, where we have this climate change adaptation and agribusiness support program, we are supporting the populations that are dealing with food insecurity, the impact of climate change, which is a reality of every day. We are working in 7 states there. And in the Middle Belt and towards the southwest of Nigeria, in 9 states, we have this value chains development program, which is our flagship project really in Nigeria. And here we are working with farmers to support them to be able to meet the demands of the markets. And the support is to help them add value to their products, engage in off-taker arrangements with these big agro-processors that we know in Nigeria, working especially on rice and cassava. And that program has yielded some significant impact for the smallholder farmers, with yields doubling for some of these the crops that we are working on, incomes also increasing. So that's something that we really very pleased with. We are also working in the Niger Delta, and in the Niger Delta, our focus with the government of Nigeria and also with the Niger Delta Development Commission, our focus is on the youth. We know that in different parts of Nigeria, youth are facing this problem of unemployment. Is even more astute in the Niger Delta. So what we are doing is to build the capacity of these young people to start their own business in the agriculture sector, receiving coaching mentorship from existing businesses. And it's a program that is also going well. So those are the existing operation, but we also have a program under development with the African Development Bank and the Islamic Development Bank, the federal government of Nigeria and different states. It's the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones program. So we are really getting in a new way of doing business in agriculture in Nigeria. We are supporting the government to industrialize the sector. And what our role is for IFAD is to make a smallholder farmer can take advantage of all these opportunities that will be created with these agro-industrial hubs that will start popping up in different states. We want to be there with our smallholder farmers, help them meet those requirements, because the markets have very high requirements that are not easy to meet, but with the type of support that we are bringing in terms of capacity building, in terms of organizing farm organizations, also supporting farmers to get access to climate smart infrastructures, seeds, also green financing. Those are things that we will be doing with IFAD funding and also with the iGreenFin funding to be able to support the farmers. And it will be probably one of the biggest programs in Nigeria, with co-financing from ISDB, AFDB, and IFAD amounting more than $400 million. So that's going to be a very big program, and it's under development. Hopefully it will start next year. It's going through our different institutions boards. I wanted to mention this different program because it's important to see that we are already doing a lot, but there's always room to do more. I mean, all the speakers before me mentioned some key issues that we need to deal with. So we need to continue to innovate, as Fred was saying. We need to do more in terms of working with the youth and working with women, smallholder farmers. So there's a lot to do. In January, we will start our new replenishment cycle, IFA 12. And in the business model that we will start implementing in January, there's even a bigger focus on these key issues that were raised and that were also reminded to us during the FSS and all the dialogues that took place in the country. Will be in the IFA 12 model, will be focusing a lot on climate change. 40% of our portfolio of loans and grants across the world will be in issue dealing with climate change. So that's something very important. Youth, 60% of our portfolio of loans and grants will be really focused on youth. And in Nigeria, where we have the majority of the population below 24 years old, that will be very relevant. Gender, we want also to continue our agenda to transform the lives of women. So gender transformation is something very important. And of course, you cannot be talking about food security without talking about nutrition. So we'll be working also in these issues. 60% of our portfolio will be nutrition sensitive. So those are things to give you an idea of what we will be doing in the future. And as I mentioned before, we are working in close collaboration with the government, with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, developing all these programs and trying to make sure that we are supporting the government to meet its agenda, also in this SDGs, where we are also closely involved in discussing with government. And we appreciate that it was again reminded today by the President's office. So thank you again for inviting us to be part of this panel. We look forward to receiving different questions and answering as best as we can. And thank you everyone also for the remarks that were made before me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Habamenshi. And thanks for the great work that you continue to lead and to do in partnership with the government in Nigeria. Also to hear from another agency that's also involved in a lot of the development support, I want to call on the country director ad interim, Mr. Ronald Sibanda, the country director of the World Food Programme, to hear more about the work of the WFP, also in relation to this theme of the 2021 World Food Day. Mr. Sibanda, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, moderator. I appreciate it. The Honorable State Minister of Agriculture, my fellow panelists, our actions are our future. Better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life. A very apt theme, giving us perhaps a wake-up call as we walk towards zero hunger as a nation. Honorable Minister, the world faces an exponential increase in hunger, fueled in part by the climate crisis. If urgent action to help communities adapt to climate shocks and stresses is ignored, vulnerable communities, a vast majority of whom rely on agriculture, fishing, and livestock, and who, by the way, contribute the least to the climate crisis, will continue to bear the brunt of the impacts with the limited means to cushion the blow. When coupled with conflict, the climate crisis becomes a threat multiplier. It exacerbates existing vulnerabilities, magnifying the damage, destruction, and despair. Extreme climate events in conflict-affected areas destroy the already meager resources at the disposal of families and even hamper humanitarian efforts reaching communities. If this is the new normal, we cannot keep lurching from disaster to disaster. We need to go beyond just picking up the pieces after the crisis. Instead, we need to manage climate risks so they no longer have the power to destroy the food security of vulnerable communities. In other words, we need to manage risks rather than manage disasters. This is where, under the leadership of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, all stakeholders must invest in and implement climate risk management solutions in a more coordinated manner, working with communities. We need to anticipate climate hazards before they turn into disasters, using early warning systems to trigger financial support. We need to help communities to restore degraded ecosystems as natural shields against climate hazards. We need also, in the same vein, to protect the most vulnerable with safety nets and insurance against climate extremes. Transforming Nigeria's agriculture through more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable food systems demands a more holistic approach through the whole value chain, from production, processing, and access to markets for smallholder farmers. While addressing short food needs of displaced people in the Northeast, WFP works with partners to support communities rebuild their livelihoods where security conditions permit. Food assistance programs of WFP include both in-kind food and cash-based transfers, which help resuscitate food markets. From 2017 to date, WFP has injected some US $278 million into the economy through buying locally produced food for humanitarian programs in Nigeria. We have established in Kano a WFP Global Commodity Food Management Facility to buy locally produced food for Nigeria programs and potentially WFP programs in the region and elsewhere on the continent. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sabanda. I was just about sending a message and you wrapped up. So just really thank you again for those insightful comments that you shared and the great work that you continue to do as well in the country. I think a lot of reference has been made by members of the panel so far to reference the informal sector and the small-scale farmers. And so today we're delighted to also have with us Mr. Kabir Ibrahim, who is the president of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria, AFAN, and he'll be speaking to us very briefly about the role of smallholder farmers in transforming the agri-food systems in the country. Mr. Ibrahim, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much. I like to appreciate everybody who spoke, and I think we're celebrating the smallholder farmers. We've come a long way from the 11th to date, when there were many speeches and many statements celebrating the smallholder farmers. And we appreciate all the good work that everybody has been doing on the food system. The smallholder farmers are organized, but let me go back to recognizing my brother, the Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture, Alhaji Mustafa Baba Shahuri, the country rep of FAO, Mr. Fred Kafero, the IFAD representative, WFF, Dr. Kosari, and the advisor on SDG. There are many things happening to Nigeria's food system. The challenges are felt by the smallholder farmers. The most important challenge is insecurity. At some point, the farmers could not go to their farms. And that had a telling effect on the food system, on our productivity and production. We are appreciative of all the efforts the government has been making in making things good or fair enough for us. But there are many debilitating things that we must address as a nation. We understand that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is supposed to lead the policy and create the enabling environment to make the smallholder farmers work properly. And as you are working assiduously to make the food system work and to feed the 200 million mouths in Nigeria, we appreciate efforts and interventions from the CBN, NALDA, the projects under the PCU, where IFAD, WF, and FP and all that come in. But we want to ask for synergy. All these works, all these things that are done should be in sync with one another so that the effect will be more and the impact will be more on the smallholder farmers. Another very important thing that is debilitating the productivity and production of the smallholder farmers is lack of data. If you don't have data, you cannot plan for these people. Nobody knows the number of people who produce maize, who do poultry, who produce rice and all that. Some effort has been made by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. I believe Dr. Kosari has been working on that, but we are saying that that is too low because many of us are not even aware that that is happening. On our part, we are partnering with some companies to do this free of charge to the farmers, and AFAN will pay nothing for it because it's been provided for by the World Bank. Now, for all my thoughts to be put together, I would like to make a few suggestions that would help the food system. We think that an agricultural policy should be in place, and it should be anything new from the agriculture promotion policy. Rather, we should consolidate the agriculture promotion policy so that we take it to the rest of the time left for this administration, about 18 months, and up to 2024. Because if you do a new thing now, it would be breeding ground for policy somersault. There are gaps now in APP that must be filled. We have looked at the proposed National Agricultural Technology and Innovation Plan. We've made a critique of it, and we see that there are many gaps, many loopholes that need to be filled up, and it will take time to get stakeholder buy-in, get FEC approval, get the nod from the National Assembly, and then before it is launched publicly. We are advising that you consolidate the APP, and you can do this within 6 weeks, and then you can have a policy. And then do the Council on Agriculture in the first quarter of 2022, and get everybody to work on the policy, let everybody have a buy-in, let all the states buy in. And why we are talking of this is that agriculture actually takes place in the states. The national government or the federal government is supposed to create an enabling environment, but we know for a fact that not all the state governments are APC. So it's only when you do the policy on agriculture conference that you get people to buy into what the federal government is doing when there is a communique that involves what they have said in the processing of the policy. This is our advice. And then the CBN, the NALDA, and any other window that is working should work together and in the same place with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture so that we will all have the same goal. Again, the president made a statement at the anniversary, 61st anniversary, where he said the NAFRA, that National Food Reserve Agency, should be resuscitated I think work should start in earnest to do that, because that is where we will have the buffer. Right now, people are complaining all over the place and blaming farmers for the skyrocketing prices of food. But reality is that definitely there is inflation all over, but the food inflation is what everybody feels. But that is not necessarily the fault of the farmers. There are many, many issues. One issue that should be recognized is that as far as we are concerned, the purchasing power of the Naira is to blame mostly for all that is happening. The farmers buy all inputs from the same market that everybody else buys. No farmer produces every competence, everything that they need. We also buy from the same market, so we know exactly the position of inflation. The Naira is very, very weak. It sells for, it buys $1 for about 580 in the black market. That is unheard of. You can see that right now, many people are harvesting, but we still have high prices. Prices should come down. For the last 30 years, our experience is that prices come down a lot at this point. But you can see there is an only marginal drop now. And we can blame this on the purchasing power of the Naira. Two, there are some actions by omission and commission being perpetrated by some of the institutions that are unwittingly causing turbulence in the food system and in the price of food items in the market. I will apportion blame on the CBN, for instance, for evolving the prime anchors. The prime anchors take money saying they would give people who would produce for them and they will buy off and pay the CBN in kind. They are not doing that. The CBN should check. These people are mopping what is produced from the markets. And if they are buying during inflation, they will exacerbate inflation. And that is why all these things are costing this high now. But the president alluded to holders and all that. Those ones are minimal compared to all this that is happening all over, the Naira and the activities of some of these people. Well, certainly is a threat factor. But the most important threat factor to productivity and to the Nigeria's food system is insecurity. The COVID-19 is global. Everywhere in the world, I think we are facing the same problem. Everywhere in the world. There are lines on food banks in the United States and UK. So nobody is saying that the food problem is only a Nigerian problem. There are turbulences all over the globe. We are very grateful that the government is working very hard and running so many programs to be able to help the food system. The smallholder farmer in Nigeria is organized and will be able to speak through AFAN. The government and the government drive and the drivers of policy should understand that it is only when they talk with the stakeholders through AFAN that they meet an organized body. Otherwise, everybody is carrying their briefcase and saying that they are farmers. There are so many proliferation of associations. I am glad that the SOFAN president is there on the panel, Madam Mary Afan. We call her Mary Afan. She knows what I'm talking about. She has a number of people who belong to her and they are organized. Anybody who says that the farmers are not organized does not know anything about what is organization. I would like to stop here and answer questions that may arise from all this, but I reiterate my position and the position of the farmers that we are very happy with all the work that everybody else in the agriculture space has been doing and is doing and will continue to do. And this government, more than any other government before, has made serious investments, but we're like Oliver Twist, we're asking for more. Even the minister the other day alluded to that there is need for more investment. So like Oliver Twist, we're asking for more. Thank you very much. I'm sitting waiting to answer questions that may arise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for that. And I will just really encourage all our speakers and also the members also the members of the audience who wish to ask questions. In the interest of time, we actually started some minutes behind schedule, and we'll be trying to still wrap up just some minutes behind our schedule. And so we'll be asking for permission. We're aiming to close this meeting at the latest by 12:15. Now, I noticed that some have their hands raised. I'll urge you to kindly just drop your questions in the question and answers box, or send a message through the chat. My intention is at the end of this panel to be able to go through the questions, just read out the questions, and the panelists will know the questions that have been assigned to them, that have been apportioned to them, that have been asked them actually. And then we can do another round through the panelists to enable them answer the questions as well as give their final remarks. And this is all in the interest of time. So I'll just be asking that if you do have questions, please drop it in the questions and answer box. So with that, I'll be moving on to our next speaker, and who is the president of the Small Scale Women Farmers Organization in Nigeria, SWOFON, Miss Mary Afan. And she's going to be speaking a bit more about the role that women, who are the majority of all farmers, play in transforming Nigeria's agriculture through more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable food systems. And I think in particular, the question that is being posed to her is, what more support would you say is needed by this segment, this important segment of farmers in Nigeria? And so with that, I'll be passing the floor to Ms. Mary Afan. You have the floor, ma'am. Ms. Mary? Ms. Mary Afan, are you with us? If you're speaking, your mic is still muted.
Oh, sorry, I unmute now. Yeah,
all right,
my
then.
name
Thank you.
is Mary Afan. I'm the National President of Small Scale Women Farmers Organization in Nigeria. I want to stand on the existing protocol, appreciate my special guests who have just spoken, including the National President for AFAN, the National Chairman of AFAN. Sincerely speaking, this is a very important discussion, and I hope that this discussion will continue forward based on the theme of the World Food Day, our future, our action. I want to speak in that respect by saying that whatever thing we do today determines what will happen tomorrow. And whatever thing we're experiencing today came from what we did yesterday. And on that regard, I want to speak to the key stakeholders, with even those that have presented here, that government need to take a drastic action on the investment in agricultural sector. If we actually want our tomorrow to be better, we need to increase investment in the agri sector. Nigeria is a signatory to the Malabo Declaration. And if you look at the budget allocation on the agri sector, in fact, it is increasing at a decreasing rate. We want to speak to government on the need to increase more investment in the agri sector. And in the investment, we are appealing as smallholder women farmers that we need a specific amount targeted to smallholder farmers because of the challenges and the role we play in bringing food to the table of every household. If you are talking of agriculture, the primary area of agriculture is in the rural communities. If they don't produce, you will not have the raw material to go into processing, to go into packaging. But sincerely speaking, this sector is being neglected. We want to speak on government on the need to bring on modalities that these farmers can access whatever intervention government is bringing right to the communities so that they can be able to increase production. Presently, we are facing a lot of challenges in the agri sector, both those in the crop sector and those in the animal production. We have an issue of insecurity, which the AFAN chairman have actually spoke of. We are an organized set of farmers. Government continued to say that farmers are not organized, farmers are not organized. That time have passed. We are unorganized farmers, just like the AFAN chairman said. Shofon is a farmers organization that is cut across all the 36 states, including FCT, and all our women are registered cooperative, having membership of over 500,000. Then if any support is challenged to such a structure, I am quite sure that it's going to reach up to the communities. Farmers are well organized, both from the federal up to the community level. And we want to talk on government on the need for sustainable agriculture. If you look at what happened when they fertilizer in Nigeria, they gave it to our parents free of charge. They were using it, the price continued to increase. Now the fertilizer have destroyed our without the fertilizer, and the cost is now beyond the reach of an ordinary farmer. Then what do we do? Smallholder women farmers are now going back to say, okay, what we are going to be doing is let's go back to sustainable agriculture by doing compost, by using our farm manure, by using the residues from our farm to see how we can rebuild our farms. And this is what has given birth to climate change that we are actually talking of, washing away of the topsoil, and it decreases food security. Government continue to talk of security. Unless we handle the issue of food security, it will be difficult for us to reach security. Because last year when we were speaking with the Minister of Agri, we told him that because of the insecurity, we are going to have high cost of food prices now because farmers could not go back to the farm because of insecurity. And even as it is this year, just like the AFAN chairman said, in fact, many farmers could not go back to the farm because of the issue of insecurity. Now, government should look for ways of, not only using one cycle to farm, we can use irrigation. At this time, government should support smallholder farmers to be able to do a dry season farming, to be able to access more food, to be able to feed the nation. And in fact, that will be able to support government. I want to sincerely appreciate the Federal Ministry of Agri because this year in April, in December last year, 2020, Shofon handed over the whole to the museum because we said we need technology. For us to increase production, we also need technology that is women-friendly. And April this year, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture gave us machineries and equipment, which was distributed to all the women in the 36 states. And we are still asking for more, just like the AFAN chairman said. We are still asking for more. And Chairman AFAN.
Hello?
Support for fund is one of the structure you will use to reach rights to the community. And this speaker has spoken very well. I want to say that let this discussion continue. Since we are an organized structure, let's see how we can move to increase production in Nigeria for us to be able to attain food security. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Mary Afan, for those comments and the passionate appeal put forward. And finally, to wrap up this panel, I will be inviting the Country Director for Action Aid in Nigeria, Ms. Ene Obi, who will be represented by the Action Aid Nigeria Director of Programs, Suwaiba Yakub Jibrin. And they will be and the discussion will be on the role of CSOs in achieving zero hunger. What can be done to be on track? Thank you so much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And I want to stand existing protocol, starting with the statement that Mary Afan just made, that women have handed over the host to the museum, looking forward towards technology. And to achieve zero hunger will require a deliberate and coordinated action across MDS, development partners, and civil society organizations, as well as the farmers themselves, that is the people in the community. This calls for the recognition of the impact of climate change, the existing practices and policies that we have as a country, the level of impact that the policies have made in the people or on the people in the last decades, last year, and what we intend to do this year. It also calls for a people-centered approach to the policy-making processes, which include what the last two speakers have just said, inclusion of the farmers themselves in the process of policy making, which would enable their inputs into those policies that affect the issue of our food production in Nigeria. We all know that 40% of the food that we consume across the world or in Nigeria is produced by the poor people who are living in communities, especially the poor women who are the smallholder women farmers. So I want to congratulate first the Minister of Agriculture. For the first time, we have a gender responsive agricultural policy, which is developed and then actually is sitting as a chair of the implementation framework. However, we have mapped almost 160 different policies that is available in the country, but have not been implemented. The role of civil society organization includes breaking these policies into minute details that is understood by everybody, building capacity of the people to ask critical questions, especially in the area of policies of government that is headed towards increasing the food security in the country. We've recently been experiencing a lot of issues around insecurity. People are no longer able to go to their farms. The farmers have talked. We have the issues around public, increasing level of humanitarian, displacement. A lot of people are being displaced. CSOs have a lot of responsibility in responding to climate-induced humanitarian displacement. So we will continue and have been, as we have been doing, to build capacity of people to understand the government policies, to also present to government alternatives based on coping mechanisms that have been in place. The implementation of policies and treaties that the country have been signing, either as what Mary have just mentioned, the Malabo Declaration, we have the Beijing, we have the Paris Agreement, and so on. Government have a lot of plans and programs that are being developed. Implementation has been the challenge. So one of the critical roles that we play as civil society organization, apart from the mobilization of citizens to take corrective actions, which include understanding how they can convert waste to use, which we have been doing actually in Nigeria, including how they can respond and adapt to climate change. We want to see a lot of this, implementation of the adaptation mechanism as planned by government to be able to support people right from their communities, how they are going to respond, and then that they will have enabling environments in putting in place the resilient mechanisms that is available to them. Our role also includes asking government to put in place or to reform the tax system, which will bring in the money that is the revenue that is required for improved service delivery. The cost of production is high, and the capacity to spend and purchase is also getting very low. With increase in tax justice, there will be reduced or drop in the burden imposed on the farmers, while increasing the amount or the taxation on the wealthy and also multilateral companies. We need to go away from all the issues around tax holidays, making people to be accountable, and then we have enough income revenue into the country that will support agricultural development programs that are aimed at increasing food security. If you go to the communities nowadays, you will find no extension services. We have seen a situation or a decade in this country when we have people who are supporting farmers right inside the communities. This time around, either due to insecurity or failure in government service delivery, these services are no longer there. The cost of food items is high, just like the president of AFAN is talking, and the blame goes to the farmers. However, we know that government has a responsibility in balancing the equation in between the demand and the supply side, so that we have the right kind of food system in Nigeria. We also will continue to facilitate evidence-based advocacy for gender-responsive agricultural services. We want to see that there's a lot of synergy between all the MDAs, those that are responsible for the climate justice, those that are responsible for agricultural production and the environment, so that we will see a humanitarian development nexus between the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Environment, and then that the work is coordinated, and then there's no duplication and wastage. On the part of the people, we'll continue to build the capacity to understand the impact of climate change that is, as a result of people's action and orientation. I think I will stop from here at this level, and then we'll expect some questions. If we continue discussions, I think we'll have more areas that we can bring on board. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jibrin. Truly appreciate your comments and the intervention provided. And I think that brings us to the end of the panel discussion or the interventions by the panelists. And I want to thank all the members of our audience for staying with us. I want to also thank you for the questions that have been pouring in. And as promised, what I intend to do now is to read out these questions. I will invite the members of the panel to kindly listen in on the ones that they consider directed to them. There are some that are specifically addressed to some groups and some others that are left more open. And so my sense is that we can take an approach where when we come around again for final remarks from members of the panel, you're able to speak on questions that you consider you're able to touch on, especially if it's not directly addressed to any specific person. So I'll just be going through those questions in a second. Now, we have a question directed to Afan, and it's a question that with all the different initiatives on access to finance, why is it still very difficult for farmers to have timely access to finance to address the issues of food systems in Nigeria? And that's from Mr. Abdullah Umar. We also have a question that is addressed to IFAD and the WFP from Olasumbo Adeleke, who works with local, and just to find out if IFAD and WFP work with local NGOs, especially with women, and also how can someone get more information on your activities in Nigeria? There's a question here from Jabani Hamza as to whether there's anything put in place to kind of subsidize the prices of planting seeds, farm inputs, and fertilizers to farmers, particularly in rural areas, to help in boosting local production. And also another question coming from the same author is as to whether there have been reports, there have been reports of people being attacked in the farmlands. And I think we've heard a lot from the last two speakers on the insecurity questions, and how are associations ensuring that your members are being secured from these attacks. We have a question from Mr. Mahmoud Lawal as to what are the factors that determine the modern farming system in Nigeria? What are factors that determine the modern farming system in Nigeria? And also another question from the same author, what are the implications of using a single variety of crop for human sustenance? And then finally, I believe, no, I still have, I'll revert to the chat box in a second, but from Awoyinka Kolawole, there is a reference to the need to talk on gender dynamics of food production as well. And I think a lot has been spoken today about gender, particularly because a lot of rural women are involved in the food chain in the nation. And I guess maybe the point that is being asked here is, how can women participation in food value chains be improved to further increase food production? And I know that some speakers have made references to that already. Now, I just want to refer to the to the chat box for a final check on if we still have any outstanding questions. And so I have a question here from Mohammed Zana Lawan. And just a second. And pleading, or it's more a comment, pleading with the FAO and WFP to give more consideration to local partners in implementation of projects, as local partners are very active to reach the removed areas. Just a second. Okay, so there's a question here on the issue of climate change. And it's asking, as a nation, what strategy do we have in place to ensure that water resources are preserved and farmers make the best use of water to obtain optimal yield? And it's asked in the context of climate change. Another question coming here is as to how the ministry can end food waste to fight hunger. What type of system needs to be put in place to help support data collection and help the decision-making system, all right? And I think the final question I have here is, okay, this is just a comment, it's not a question, so I will just pass on this. And so that brings to a wrap the questions that have been passed through into the chat box. And with that, I'll be turning back to the panel. And I'll kindly be asking you, again, in the interest of time, I sincerely apologize, but if you can limit your questions to 2 to 3, your responses to 2 to 3 minutes, we'll greatly appreciate, so that we can go around the panel. In this context, I'll also be inviting you to make your final remarks, your closing remarks, as well as part of your responses to the questions that have come so far. And so I will follow the same order in which the presentations were made, and I'll be yielding the floor now to the Senior Special Advisor to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Her Excellency Princess Adejoke Adefulure, who is represented here by Ms. Rose Kefas. All right, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I'll just give my own final remarks because there was no direct questions. Thank all the panelists, and I will reiterate what the Honorable Minister of State has said. We need to win the war against poverty and hunger, and based on the Food System Summit at the UN General Assembly, the President has committed to lifting 100 people out of poverty, of which investment in food systems and nutrition is his top priority. And also we need to build sustainable, responsive, and inclusive food systems in Nigeria, enhance productivity of small-scale farmers. And I will just use an example of what Kenya is doing, giving access to government procurement to small and medium enterprise. So, it's a long value chain, and we need to give them access to financing, access to technology, and use innovative ways to address, hunger in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kefas. Truly appreciate that. I have a question that came in as well. Don't worry, ma'am. I think you've already gone, so I don't think it's even a question, but it's more addressed to the ministry, just in case you wanted to reflect on it. But it's a question to the ministry, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, and it's a question as to what are the plans on upscaling agroecology? What are the plans from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in upscaling agroecology? And so with that, I'll move on to the next speaker, the Senior Special Advisor to the President on Agriculture, Dr. Kwasari. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you for giving us this final. I'll quickly round up. First of all, let me answer a direct question that asks what is being done to support smallholder farmers in any form, with any form of subsidy to help them afford the rising cost of inputs. This is to say that the federal government, as the SSA on SDG said, is that under the Economic Sustainability Plan, we commence a systematic registration of farmers across the country with over 34,000 foot soldiers. And today we have more than 6.5 million data touch points that link farmers to the smallholder farmers to their land in their community with specific detail. In addition, working with NIBS, we have also done BVN enrollment for more than 2 million of these farmers. Within this bulk, we have used this database to isolate the very small and vulnerable smallholder farmers. And Mr. President approved that subsidy should be transferred directly to them. And Mr. President gave subsidy to the farmers ranging between a minimum of 3,000 and a maximum of 24,000 naira, depending on whether or not you are a 1 acre farmer or a 5 acres farmer. And this has gone, the first batch has gone. There were 1,113,000 beneficiaries, and they received in total over 5 billion. And this went direct. All the farmers are financially included. NIBS validated their bank verification number tied to a bank account that is theirs. And there was nobody, the money went to their purses, to their bank accounts for them to use it to support their farming activity. I think federal government did that pilot just to test how can we get support to vulnerable farmers direct without intermediaries, without third-party members, without anyone standing between government support and farmers. And how can we also track? So eTransact was used for that transaction, and they were able to track the 12,000 farmers whose transactions failed, and working with Accountant General to go back again and issue that transaction. So I think this trial has shown us that with appropriate data, so data, to close my remarks, when the FAO rep said, how can we also enable innovative ways to support these farmers? I think vulnerability, for me, key to the farmers are two. The one posed by climate change and all the unsustainable way of industrial agriculture, and the one posed by financial exclusion. So I think getting smallholder farmers financially included with their asset tied to them. And this is very important because when you look at the landscape of agriculture in Nigeria, from the 6 million records we have and the World Bank analysis and the data from Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, it is clearly written there that 63% of land holding, the total arable land under cultivation today, 63% are passed on by hereditary, by inheritance, meaning then that we can really use agriculture targetedly with data to really emancipate people out of poverty because land is held by family members that inherited the 63%. So these are very important issues. And there are many issues that we can talk about going forward around technology. Only 2% of smallholder farmers have access to irrigation. So there are lots of issues, but 90% of the food we grow in this country is by the smallholder farmers. 87% of them live in rural areas. We have only 27% out of 6.5 million farmers included. So there are just so many nuances. When I said around organization, it's data-driven, evidence-based organization. We really need to work on this. And I agree with the other speakers, especially on really how can we work and extend the shelf life of APP and all the other things that they said. I think really the AFAN chairman was right. We don't have time for a new policy. We just need to ramp up implementation, and all other speakers that, especially those that spoke about the lack of execution of policies. But coordination and synergy is key to all the stakeholders. We need to work in a coordinated way. Even the development partners, you can do wonderful things, but are you aligned to the mandates and the priorities of government? And this administration, honestly, if you look at the 9 priority areas, priority number 2, enlarge food production for export and consumption, food security and export, it's fundamental that we should align around this. And all other 9 priority areas, align around them. Since Mr. President now have said, how can we deliver this before 2023? He's not interested in new policies. He wants ministers now to meet quarterly to say how they're working on this. So it's very important that we find alignment. And honestly, I thank FAO, and I'll be reaching out to the FAO rep also to discuss some of these issues, and all the panelists are sincerely grateful for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kosani. Thank you. Truly appreciate it. I have another question that's coming, and just to mention it before we get to, it's directed to the Smallholder Women Farmers Association, and the person wants to know how one can get a database of crop-specific smallholder women farmers in different states for women-targeted interventions. Does the association run with such structures in the states? And so that's a question that I think Mrs. Mary Afan will be taking when it comes to her turn. With your kind permission, Mr. Fred Kafiro, I will skip you at this point, and I'll allow the other speakers, and I'll come back to you to wrap up all together. So I'll be passing the floor now to Mr. Patrick Habamenshi, the country program manager for IFAD. The floor is yours, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, so there were a few questions in the chat, and I was frantically taking the contacts to send them to our team. So we will revert by email for those who provided emails. What I wanted to say something about this question that came about scarcity of water now that there's more you know, with the climate change. People are going to are using different resources, and there's less water available in the short to long run. What I wanted to say about this one is that climate, to be able to be resilient to this climate change, we need to look at it holistically. If we only look at water as the solution to, because there's less rainfall, we are going to try to get more water, it will create that stress that was mentioned in the question. So what we try to look at in terms of resilience to climate change is that we need to transform the way we approach agriculture. And they talk a lot about climate smart agriculture, climate smart production. That's really what we need to do. We need to work with the research to get seeds that are resistant to drought, that have shorter cycles than what we have normally have. We need to also look at the type of infrastructure that we can use. For instance, it's not just about getting access to water, but what source of energy do we use? So there's solar panel pumps that we can use also to reduce to mitigate the impact of climate change. So it needs to be looked at very holistically. And I'm glad also that we are hosted today by FAO with the farmers field schools. Nowadays, we are focusing also on environment and climate change, because it wasn't enough to just talk about production and productivity without embracing those other aspects that also impact our capacity, the capacity of smallholder farmers to survive with what they are doing. So really, let's look at it holistically. And to end my comments here, I like a word that kept coming through this discussion is the word alignment. Really, I agree. We need to align, because each one of us is doing something crucial. But if we don't do it together, we will tend to have, we will not have the impact that is desired. At the UN, we try to coordinate our activities. We are coordinating also with the federal government through the Ministry of Agriculture. But there are so many key players that were here today that we need to dialogue with and make sure that our strategies are really encompassing the needs of the different stakeholders. So it's an open discussion, and we look forward to continuing working together to align our activities. And at IFAD, you are most than welcome, of course, to contact us if there's any queries, and we will be glad to answer you. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Habamenshi. Truly appreciate it. And I'll pass the floor on now to Mr. Ronald Sibanda from the World Food Programme.
Thank you very much. Very insightful questions here. One was on partnerships, which I would answer directly, whether WFP works with women NGOs, whether WFP works with local. And I want to believe that information here, that while we work as WFP, we believe very strongly in partnerships. Today, we are supporting about 2 million people in the Northeast, Adamawa, Yobe, and Bono. And all those people we are reaching through to them, but reaching through with partners, NGO partners. Some of them are international NGOs, majority of them are local NGOs. Yes, we work very closely. We believe very much in working with the partnership at the implementation stage, also in the planning of the, and I'm glad that the colleagues from the government are talking about alignment. And if you listen to my statement, I talked very much under the leadership of the Minister of Agriculture and Government Act, because we believe that when you work with aligned with the government priorities, you work with the partners, not just NGOs, but also the whole civil society, private sector, and other UN agencies. If we work in a much coordinated manner, that's the solution towards zero hunger. There is no, if you are working with, even if you are playing football, even if you are a very good player, there's no way you can win a match if you play alone. And this is the philosophy we have at WFP. We believe very strongly in working in partnerships. And I can say here without really taking much of your time, in the Rome-based agencies, there's more we can do together, but we work already with FAO in the Northeast in some specific programs together. But of course, this can be expanded. And I believe that when we work, thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you so much. I guess that theme of alignment and working partnerships is continuing to resonate through all the conversations going, and I'm really hoping to see that, you know, stemming from these conversations, we do see targeted action in those directions. So I'll just pass the floor also to Mr. Kabir Ibrahim from the AFAN to answer the questions. Thank you.
We are called AFAN, not AFAN.
Apologies, sir. Apologies, sir.
The
AFAN,
questions
sir.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 8 are for AFAN. And I'll start with 1. In spite of all the various initiatives, it is still very difficult for access to funds, you know, by smallholder farmers or by farmers at all.
Sir, if I can just put a quick plug, sir. I don't mean to interrupt your responses, sir. I'll just be asking, I recognize that you had the most questions, but I'll really please urge you to please keep your comments and responses still brief just because of time, sir.
I will.
Thank you very much.
I will do that.
Yes,
it is still difficult for farmers to access funds because the way these initiatives or interventions are coming completely alienates AFAN. So that's why they are not effective. And some of them are not even paid back. CBN will tell you that. I told them so at the executive seminar in Akwa Ibom State between the 8th and I think 11th of last month. And I believe some of them agreed with me. So all these initiatives, all these windows, the interventions are better channeled through AFAN. That's how they will reach all the farmers, the real farmers. Then subsidies on fertilizer, input, seeds, etc. The farmers in Nigeria are not subsidized. It is the middlemen that are subsidized. The PFI was doing that, and it did that for about 4 years. The chairman of the PFI used to make allocations to AFAN directly, and we would tell the chairman of the various states to put in their requests, and they were met, and the farmers got all these fertilizers at 5,500 and 5,000 last year. This year, it is not possible because fertilizers, especially the 2010 sells at about 11,400. Therefore, these subsidies, in all respects, do not go. And the seed issue, where this concerns me a lot, we have a Seed Act 2019, and the NASC is supposed to regulate all seeds, and we have the Seed Codex, we have everything, and we have seed producers in this country. they are not properly patronized, and therefore good seed does not reach the farmers. 3, insecurity preventing farmers from going to their farms. This is almost cliche now. It began from the northeast, then it went to the northwest, the north central, and it's all over Nigeria now. A lot of work is being done. We applaud the security agencies for all the work they are doing, but we want them to do more. And the security situation should be looked at as everybody's problem, not only government. We are doing our best as farmers to create our own security around us, but there is not much that we can do because we are handicapped. Then number 4, what are the factors determining modern farming? But I'm sure the guy is talking about mechanization and adoption of technology to agriculture. That is getting rid of hoes and cutlasses from our farmers. And this is a work in progress. I think government is making a lot of effort. Dr. Kosari has been talking about mechanization, borrowing money from Brazil, bringing in tractors and equipment to help the farmers, and this will be distributed in all the local governments of this country. And then, of course, the science incubation centers will be able to also make at least implements that we use here. We have a good synergy with the STI, the Science, Technology and Innovation Ministry, so that we will be able to manufacture some of this equipment here. That is how every other country in the world came to where it is, the so-called industrial countries. Then number 8, because of this hurry, the data collection. The AFAN has signed an MOA with Afrideco, a company that is collaborating with NIMSI and the Ministry for Digital Economy to register all farmers, regardless of what they do, with their own competencies, their locations, and we have data around their holdings. That is work in progress, and I believe we will do this efficiently, and all farmers will have data, and when you call us, we can easily tell you what farmers are doing maize, who are raising chicken, who are raising large ruminants, where they are, and all that. But this data is not exhaustive because we continually add to it, and we have to find real hosts. We have to find real vehicles. I don't know what the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is doing, who is hosting their data and all that, but this calls for a lot more than they are doing. As far as we are concerned, this is very vital to all planning. Data is very, very crucial. We cannot do anything without data. So we are putting emphasis on it, and we are going forward ahead of the ministry to sign this MOU, or to have signed the MOU with Afrideco. Afrideco, by the way, is being promoted by people who know the business of agriculture. The main mover of this is a former Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria. He was there as a young man. He understood the value of data, and he is into it. So I think I'll stop here because you've asked me to be brief, but I can talk all day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim. And
you're welcome.
Truly appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you. And so I'll ask Ms. Mary Afan as well to kindly give her 2-minute intervention at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there was a question that was directed to me. How can we get specific crop data of women farmers across Nigeria? I think so far on our organization, we have our database from all the 36 states. We have submitted this data to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture with even the particular crops that each farmer produces and the farm size. And I want to say here as my closing remark is that if you need any specific data on crop production in any part of the country, you can contact us. Our secretariat is hosted by Action Aid Nigeria. I want to say that quickly that please, I think we need to change the narrative now. Let's take action and reduce the talking, and let's walk the talk. We farmers will also begin to ask data of the farmers that have been moved out of poverty. When you come to do presentation, you give us the data of farmers that have been moved out of poverty as a result of interventions of the project you do in all the states we have been actually talking of. Because if actually this project are targeted to removing farmers out of poverty, I don't think any farmer should be saying they are poor now. You only want this poverty to remain as the face of farmers. We need specific data. We should be having farmers that have changed their life because of interventions from either government or organizations like international organizations. As you come to collect data from us, we also need reports from you to know the intervention that have taken place. And with that, we are ready to produce the food that can feed the nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mary Afan. Truly appreciate that. And finally, I'll be asking Mrs. Suwaiba Yakub Jibrin, representative of the country director of Action Aid, Ms. Ene Obi, to kindly provide her final remarks as well.
Thank you very much. All the other parts have been presented by colleagues here as panelists. Our role, I would continue to reiterate the approach, a new approach to the narrative, like Mary just said. We'll call for humanitarian agricultural development nexus approach, where we can be able to address the food system and taking into consideration the effective resilience, mechanisms. Because when all these the commitments come together, there's going to be an approach that will look at the production level in terms of agriculture, using agroecology, and then responding to climate change, which has to look at the issues of climate resilience, justice system, and then the approach that will help to improve food security. We are also calling for effective monitoring and evaluation system that will show the impact and then that assessment that is going to happen in Nigeria. We just heard from the special advisor to the president, a pilot scheme that has gone in using digitalization of a database. To what extent is that going to cover all farmers in Nigeria? And so how are we bringing in the other actors like the CMIDAN, who are producing raw material research agency, the Bank of Agriculture, and so on. So this needs to be expanded beyond the office of the Honorable, His Excellency, the President. We need to bring it out and make sure that other people take into account, becomes more accountable and take responsibility. And unless the commitments that we have in paper is put to action, it's not going to be a business, we will continue to do business as usual. And what we are calling now is to do business differently. Consider the issue of agriculture as a right. Make it pleasurable for the young people to join, but improve the security systems that make the farming approach secured, and then that people are seeing the impact and are able to align with it as a day-to-day life, because it's no longer seen as not yet seen as a business. And when people that have taken into consideration agriculture and embrace it, they are disturbed by the current context of the country, insecurity, the failure of the land soil. And then again, another big issue, the land grabbing system. Government is planning on one hand, putting system in place, on the other hand, dashing the lands that is available to the poor people to cultivate and produce food to the table, and then is now given to big commercial companies who do not pay tax to the country in the long run. So we need to change this, the approach. We need to approach it from a nexus. They do a nexus approach, make sure that we are coordinated, and then that synergy that we're talking about with effective monitoring and evaluation system on all the policies and the mechanisms we have. Then we'll have enough effective and efficient food security systems in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I really appreciate that. And I think I must say at this point, before I yield the floor to Mr. Fred, that I have thoroughly enjoyed listening, and I have learned so much from all the panelists and speakers that have gone, the questions that have been raised, the level of engagement. And I do feel a sense of hope, a strong sense of hope as to where our food systems are going. And I'm really buoyed by the efforts of the government, the partnership drive, and also even the sense of alignment that has come around through all the stakeholders that have shared today. And so I really want to thank everyone. And I will pass the floor to Mr. Fred Kafiro to also provide his own final comments as well as assist us to close the session. So without much ado, I'll hand the floor to the country representative in Nigeria and of the FAO and ECOWAS, Mr. Fred Kafiro. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much, Moody, and thank you so much for moderating and getting us engaged for these 2 hours that we have been together. We really appreciate that. Let me also recognize in our midst Dr. Abdul Kadir Muazu. Dr. Muazu, as you know, is the just outgone permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture. I believe that all these issues we've been talking about came during his time, and they were music to his ears. Dr. Muazu, you are very welcome. We really appreciate your presence.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. Welcome. It's a pity we can talk like the president of AFAN said, we can talk the whole day or the whole week about these issues because they are really engaging. And personally, I would really love that we have these opportunities where we share on these issues because they are pertinent for the country. Unfortunately, we don't have much time, as you all know, but we hopefully will have another engagement at some point in time. Maybe we need to create more of these kinds of engagements so that together we can be able to reflect, but also plan together. Now, there were a few questions. Many of them have been very well answered by my colleagues in the UN system, WFP and IFAD on part of the UN. But there are also those that have been really well responded to by the other panelists, and I appreciate that. So I just don't want to go into depth of them. But talking about FAO and whether we work with local partners, because that was one of the questions. Yes, FAO works with local partners. We work directly with the farmers. We work with NGOs. We work with the private sector. We work with the research and academia. So yes, you are welcome to reach out to us, and we see how we can actually work together to support the farmers in this country. The other issue that also has a direct response from us is the area of data. As you know, FAO, that's one of our core competencies in supporting countries to generate, analyze, and disseminate credible data on all aspects of food and agriculture. And we are doing this through capacitating institutions in the country. We don't do it directly ourselves, but by giving capacities, for example, to the National Bureau of Statistics, to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. We do all this by providing capacities for them to be able to do data collection and dissemination. But we also work with other partners, especially in generating data that reflects the food security situation in the country. And here we've been working as part of the UN system, but also with international NGOs who are involved on a daily basis to collect data. And this data, we use it to assess the food insecurity in the country every year. Every year we do it twice. In fact, next month we are also releasing another report related to this. I won't go into the other issues, but I think the aspect of farmer access to finance is key. It's an issue that it's not only here in Nigeria, but in many countries, a big challenge. One thing that I always say about this is first and foremost to organize our farmers. And that's why I'm very happy that we have SOFON and we have AFAN, because these are entities that actually are meant to organize farmers. Unless the farmers are organized, it becomes very difficult for them to engage meaningfully, to advocate, and to be able to access services or finance. And this is the starting point. And I believe that this is happening already with all these associations in place. This shouldn't be really a problem. But we also need to look at other, fundamental ways, basic ways through which farmers also raise their own resources. FAO is involved in some of these activities around village savings and loan associations.
Yes, I told okay, I'm waiting for you.
Okay, sorry about that. So as I said, FAO is involved in village savings and loan associations because these are also very basic ways through which farmers themselves commit to raise funds for themselves before they wait for government to give them money. So like I said, we can talk and talk and talk. There are so many areas that we can share and exchange. I believe that we will be able to reach out, but also you feel free to reach out to us for these kinds of information. I want at this point in time to thank all our panelists. I want, of course, to thank the Minister of State for Agriculture and Rural Development who joined us, but then was called because of exigence of duty. I want to thank the panelists from the presidency, both SDG and agriculture. I definitely would love to appreciate my colleagues in the UN system. I want to appreciate very much all those representatives and leaders of the farmers associations that have joined us on this panel, and also our colleagues in civil society organizations that have been part and parcel of us. All those people who have joined us from different walks of life. As you know, this has been live on YouTube, but also on Zoom. We had quite a number of other people who joined us on Zoom. I really appreciate, and let us keep this discussion going. Let us recognize the fact that our actions today are what will determine the future. So we should better be considerate on what we are doing. Thank you all, and back to you, moderator. Thank you so much as well for the work that you have done.
Thank you so much, sir. And I think all has been said. And with that, I will just say a very big thank you again, and congratulations to you, FAO, on this excellent panel. I would also say, maybe just in my own little plug, that from our side, we look forward to continuing to work with you and to support this initiative on food systems in Nigeria. So with that, I want to thank everyone who has stayed with us. I want to thank all the moderators, all the panelists, I beg your pardon, and the entire audience that has stayed out with us today. Thank you so much, and God bless. And that brings us to the end.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you for coming. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye. Bye.